class number 22. And here you go. It's got two sides. Now we're going to be starting a new sugya. Now I know that last class I said we're going to be doing some we're going to be doing an unseen, which is basically to practice a structure that we've already become familiar with. But we're kind of doing an unseen, but we're kind of not doing an unseen. What I mean is we're going to see basically the next Gemara we're supposed to be learning, which is an unseen. When I mean that it's in the Gemara we haven't seen, but it duplicates a structure that we have seen. Okay, and soon, in order to just get us in the mindset for this new sugya, just so you know where it is, we're on Kaftet Amud Bet. So we've basically I'm going to try to give a big picture summary of where we're at as far as the big picture of our sugya, right? So about a year and 3 months ago when we started, besides the background, once we got to the Gemara, we talked about the fact that there are certain mitzvot that fathers are obligated to do to their sons and mothers are not, right? And then we went and we brought the Gemara brought a Braita that brought 5/6 mitzvot, specific mitzvot that fathers are obligated to do to their sons and mothers are not. Anyone remember what they are? Pidyon ben.
Brit Milah.
Brit Milah.
Korea, teach them a trade.
Teach them a trade.
Teach him Torah.
Teach him Torah.
And find him a wife.
And find him a wife. Right? And there are those who say that also
swimming.
Teaching how to swim. Right. And then we started and then the Gemara started discussing each one. It said Brit Milah, okay. From where do we know that the father is obligated? Da 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 da. From where do we know that a woman is exempt? Da 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 da. Right? And then I went on to do the same thing with Pidyon Haben, with redeeming your firstborn son. From where do we know a father is obligated? Da 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 da. And from where do we know a woman is exempt? And then the Gemara went off on some tangential discussions about redeeming your son. If a person only has 5 coins and he has to redeem both himself and his son, who's first, right? We did that. And we talked about the fact a man marries 5 different women and he has 5 different sons from the 5 different women. Does he have to do 1 Pidyon Ben or 5 Pidyon Bens? Does it go by the father or by the mother? What did we decide?
It goes by the mother.
Goes by the mother, right? Because it's the fruit of the womb, right? So, and now the Gemara comes to the third mitzvah that a father is obligated to do to his son, and a woman is exempt. So the first one was Brit Milah, second one was Pidyon Haben, third one is
find him a wife.
No, you can look. What? No, look.
Torah.
What? Yes, to teach Torah. So the Gemara is going to start off by asking, we know the model already. From where do we know a man is obligated? It's going to prove it, and then it's going to prove from where do we know that a woman is exempt. That's the basic. That's where we are as far as in our sugya. So if you look on Kaftet Amud Bet, and you look, I'd say about. You see the Tosfot that says Halan and Halahu, which we're going to learn. We're going to learn that Tosfot. You see the Tosfot Halan and Halahu on the right, in the middle.
Yeah.
Right across that, and you go one line up. It says L'Lamdot Torah. Right? You see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that is between the 2 colons, which means that's just a quote from a previous source, meaning that's like this is what we're about to discuss. This is the section we're going to discuss. So now it's going to talk about the father's obligation and a woman's exemption from teaching their son Torah. And now, what I would like you to try to do, because you are equipped with everything you need to do this on your own, using the sheet. Which, although you see, usually in the sheet I give you guys the amount. I kind of make it really easy because I give you the amount of lines. That you just have to say, well, there's 8 lines, so there must be 8 function words in 8 stages. But then 5 and 5. So when I'm really mean to my students in school, I give them like 10 lines, and I just say, don't assume that the amount of lines reflects the amount of stages. But we're not going to do that here. So I just left it empty, and you just have to figure it out on your own. And you do what we always do. You're going to go through it. First thing you're going to do is look for function words, and based on that, once you've identified the function words, and you'll realize it's really, really easy. And I put a big hint in here. Basically, this reflects the sugya of Pidyon Haben. So, what I would do is go back to, as you're going through the sugya, have next to you as your aid the sheets that we did for Pidyon Haben, because when I say that it's similar, I don't mean it's similar. I actually mean it's identical. So try first on your own, and if you feel you're getting stuck, but it's actually really, really easy. So you go through it, identify the function words, based on the function words, try to come up with what the stage, identifying what the stages are, and then what it's saying. Right now it sounds like I'm asking you to do something that's very difficult. It's not. It's really, 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 really very easy, and it's really cool to see how the Gemara is for the third time in a row using basically the exact same structure, which means that all these discussions were happening probably with the same exact people at the same exact time in a Bet Midrash somewhere 1800 years ago, because it's the exact same structure 3 or 4 times in a row. So, go.
I got a pen for a pencil.
Sure. Just a second. Right? The pens are in the other room.
Papa, no cheating.
Okay. Pens? Pens?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
And so just start. So just as an example, just to start us off, okay, we'll do the am I still on the frame? We'll move slightly.
You're still there.
I'm still here. Okay, good. So just as an example, someone start reading for me just to get us just to brush off the rust a little bit. Someone go ahead and start reading for us.
Okay, Menahel.
Okay.
Okay, that is a function.
That is a function word, right? So Menahel is a function word. When we say function word, we mean a word that the word itself indicates what the Gemara is about to do. We always first start focusing, and a lot of people tend to think that Gemara, the biggest difficulty within the Gemara is a language barrier. It's not. It's a discipline. Just like if I were to pick up the Harvard Law Review, the main issue is not the fact that I don't know what the words mean. It's the fact that I'm not familiar with the context, I'm not familiar with the concepts, I'm not familiar with the structure. Same thing as if I pick up a medical journal. The problem is not just the words. It's the fact that I'm not familiar with the whole concept of the world, the structure, and that's what it is with any discipline. Same thing as over here. It's a discipline. So it's not just about understanding what the words actually mean. It's about being familiar with the context, being familiar with the structure. There are certain words that are key words, what we call function words. Words that, when you know what they mean, they indicate what's about to happen. So the word Menahel means, from where do we know? I don't need to know right now what I know that it's a question. Because just like if I know English, I'll say, good catch.
Sorry about that. You're good.
Okay, good. So what we do is we first go through a sugya before we have any idea what it's saying. We first try to figure out what it's doing, and that's by identifying certain function words, keywords that we're already familiar with, or that seem like they're important words that indicate to us what is about to happen. Okay, so just so someone mentioned Menahel, so just Menahel. I'm just going to do this just to start us off. Menahel is what? No, what is it doing? What stage is it?
It's a Shaila.
Okay, Shaila, and then to continue it, just
Okay, dictive.
what? Which is what? Is that a function word?
Yes.
Okay, dichtiv, right?
It's normally a raya, but I think it's a tshuva in this
Correct. It's a tshuva. How do you know it's a tshuva, not a raya?
Because I looked at my notes.
What?
I looked at my notes.
What's another reason you know it's a tshuva?
It is
After a
because it
Shaila.
follows a
Scholarship.
question.
That's it. Usually dichtiv is because dichtiv is as it's written, so usually that would serve as a proof. But in this case, there's no question, then it's an answer because it follows a question, and questions will always be followed by an answer. Okay, so go. In a chavruta. So Israel, Stephen, walking through it.
Yes.
If you have any questions, then you shouldn't have.
Like a story is
Okay, so that's the teshuva, that's the quote, right?
Right. Here's actually
The heicha and question. The heicha and here the low.
Is heicha a question?
all of the functions.
What does the word heicha mean? If you're not remember, well, you could look at your notes, but I can tell you the word heicha means in a case where, or an if. It could be translated as an if.
And here, in this case?
In a case, or literally it means in a place.
Okay.
But it's not talking about geographical place. It means in a case where.
Okay.
It's a term, the Hecha Kedisha. Am I thinking something else? Is that a different?
Different word. Heicha kedusha is like half kaddish. It's like when you do a short, a short shmones, or when you just do.
It's different spelling.
So I think it's also
Not the same word at all. No, spelled differently. That's a mispronunciation of some Yiddish word.
So this yours?
In a case where it is not
If you have a pencil, you can write it. I can give you a pencil.
The next word,
Of course, that's yours.
Yeah, that's a quote, right?
I think it's part of the rest of that.
It's mine looks like there's a quote.
But remember, the first thing you're doing is, in order to not get confused, just look for function words. Go against your nature, which is to try to understand what it's saying. And first, if you just look for function words, and write down the function words in your function word list, that will make it a lot easier.
So they will say and a bunch of function words.
Mumbo jumbo.
Can I take a look at this page?
However, you won't be able to get all of them.
I want to familiar
And for other lines, actually, yes, however, you have to
And then derivative, right?
a namer is a statement. Maybe you need to
Yes,
in conjunction with
I saw this. I've seen this.
and so use
The ihim in
this in
the
conjunction with that.
Yes, I know what these words are.
And so you'll find it actually repeated here, for example, Menahel. That's actually the first word over there. And then dictive.
Derivative again.
Is dictive is over there.
Let me take a look at these.
Uminayin.
Right. But
That's
still
the next
Hebrew.
one, right?
Wow. Except that's
I think it's Uminayin.
this might be a namer.
But what did you have for Heicha? Is a shay. What did you have for Heicha? Shayla.
So where are you?
I'm just going back to the beginning.
Right.
Shayla?
Question answer.
Yeah. Minalan is question.
How are we doing?
Okay.
How many stages did you get?
Till the end?
Yeah, how many?
We didn't get to the end yet.
Sure you did. Let me see. Got a long list there. Okay.
We had
Okay, never mind. Not
9.
yet. Okay.
Where is the end?
What?
Okay, where is the end? Wait.
Well, you tell me where the end is. Well, actually, did I put it here?
You said Tana Rabbanan.
Right. But you should know on your own that the end is Tana Rabbanan. If it's a dead Tana Rabbanan, it's not the end. If it said Ha Tana Rabbanan, it's not the end. Right. If it said Ha Tana Rabbanan, what would it be?
Is Del Marokra
That
function word?
Yes.
is a kusha.
Correct. If it said dead Tana Rabbanan, what it would be?
It's the raya.
Right. If it just says Tana Rabbanan,
Then
it's going to be a member.
That's the beginning.
So
It's 9 out of 10 times going to be the beginning of something.
Oh, so Tanner Rabbanan at the end.
Yeah. How do you know it's the end?
Because of what you just told us.
and
Okay,
you
good.
down here.
What?
You also
Good.
wrote down here.
Good an answer as any.
Yeah.
So how many do you got? How many stages?
1, 2, 3. 10.
Absolutely.
You have 10.
10.
Wait a second. Your Chavruta doesn't have 10 also?
I thought you had
That's not a good sign.
2, 3, 4, 5,
Why?
6, 7, 8.
I wasn't sure if the last one was 1 or 2.
Which one am I? I think you're missing.
Okay, function. We're just counting function
You're
words.
missing the last two.
Israel, how are we doing?
9
I've
and
got
Kra.
10, but I don't know if it's the right 10.
I'm betting it is. This is an easy sugya. I'm
So
meaning it's easy because we've done a similar thing to it. Okay, everyone has 10. That means that chances are you all got it right. Okay, let's go ahead. Wait. I need to be in this one now. I'm just kind of preparing what we're going to do afterwards. Okay. Need a black marker. Okay. Okay, go ahead. Someone, give them to me. Menahel dichtiv. Next one.
V'heicha.
V'heicha.
Tichtiv. Menahel.
Menahel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, called Yihi Menahel.
No, that's the next one.
No. So you are right. You are right that Ihi is connected to the Menahel. Ihi Menahel de la Mechayva. And we know that she's not obligated. Correct. But as far as the function word,
Yes.
Menahel is the function word. Ihi just means her. I don't know what the context. I don't know if that's part of a question, part of an answer, right? You're not wrong. But it's not a function word.
Yes. Correct.
Yeah. Continue.
There's two. So then dichtiv again.
Yep.
Then Menahel again.
Yep.
Then dichtiv.
Yep.
Then uminayin.
Good. Which, of course, is the exact same thing as Menahel, just in different, right?
And then damar kra.
Yep.
Oh, so I got it.
Wait, Michelle, you got that one? Damar Kra? Okay. By the way, what is Damar meaning? What is Damar Kra?
As it is written.
Right, so it's a question that's based on, it's an answer based on a quote from the Torah. Right? Okay. Okay, what are the stages? Heicha is what?
Shayla.
Could be a Sheila. Literally it means, and in a case where X happened, then Y is then the halacha is Y. You could read it as the question. And in a case where this is the case, but I'm saying, but we've seen this before. I prefer to call it a memra. Okay. I prefer to call it a memra, which would make second. Which would make dichtiv what?
Raya.
Yeah.
Raya.
If I were to go with your approach, Gary, that it's a sheila, what would dichtiv be?
Teshuva.
It'd be the tshuva. Okay, continue. Menahel is?
Is it Shayla?
Sheila. Dichtiv is?
Could be Raya. Oh no, sorry.
Teshuva.
Shuva. Menahel. You see how repetitious this is? Menahel
Shayla.
is a sheila. Dichtiv is a shuva. Minayin is a sheila. And Damar Kra is our shuva.
I was thrown by the last bit.
Yeah, I thought it was a Raya.
Not if. Okay, so tell me why it is impossible that Damar Kra is a raya. Based on the logical sequence. Yeah, let's stand here. Why is it impossible that Damar Kra? You're right that de usually is a proof, but why is it 100% cannot be a proof here?
Because the whole sequence is Shayla.
No, you can have something out of sequence.
No, there's not. I thought you were saying is you don't need to. You've given answers each time. You don't need to prove anything.
Well, maybe over here I need a raya. Forget the sequence.
Okay.
You don't need. Unless you do mean what I'm looking for, and I just don't. Meaning, why would there need to be a raya? Meaning, it makes no sense there would be a raya proof after a question. Why could there not be a proof after a question?
Does it have to be
Because there's a
kushya
missing answer.
What?
You would normally say kushya.
Normally, that you tell me what you're familiar with already. Give me a logical argument.
You have to have an answer that you might then want to prove the source of.
You're answering saying that's what we could expect. Why is it illogical? It is not possible logically to say that there would be a proof after a question. Let's remind ourselves, what is a question?
A question
Looking for
comes
information.
from a place of innocence.
Right, a place comes from a place of innocence or a place of ignorance, so to say, right? Innocence meaning I don't know something. Okay, that's what the question is saying. I don't know something, I need more information. So I don't need to prove I don't know.
It's
Right?
asking for more information.
It's saying I don't know something, why, where, how, who, when, So why would I need to prove that I don't know something? Proof comes after a statement of certainty. So if I'm making a kushya, many times a kushya will be followed by a raya, by a proof. Because I'm saying you are wrong. No, but I don't get just to say you're wrong, I need to prove that you're wrong from either two options of where I can prove you're wrong from. Two types of way of proving that you're wrong. Two types of rayot after a kushya. Either from logic or from
Source.
a source, right? So a kushya will come, a proof will either come after it could come basically after anything except a sheila. It can come after a memra, as we have over here. I made a statement. I want to prove that what the statement they said is correct. I'm claiming that you are wrong. I need to prove that you're wrong. Proof. Or I'm being a terrorist. I'm saying, no, I'm not wrong. I need to prove that I'm not wrong. So a raya could come theoretically after anything except a sheila.
Okay.
Okay?
Is there a memra in here?
Yeah, we didn't.
Yes. Now again, over here, I'm willing to accept. Meaning, the way I like to say it is, I'm willing to accept the possibility of memory, because this concept that I'm using, it's not as if like this is Torah Hashem Sinai, that this is a system that was developed hundreds of years ago of how to learn Gemara. So I can't, let's say, prove and argue unequivocally that Heicha is a memra. But like, if I were marking a test and someone wrote over here Sheila, as long as you wrote over here Tshuva, fine.
Actually, I didn't have that in mind. At the end, when there's this long Hebrew passage, it seemed to me that was maybe a memra. In it, there's minayin and damar kra. But
okay,
this is what threw me.
So that's why because you were looking too closely, it was at what was in between the function words. Whereas we're trying to teach ourselves to do something unnatural, which is to ignore certain words and just focus on, because now we have a structure. And now does anyone here have I don't remember what number sheet it is from Pidyon Haben? Who here has the full folder? Because it should be, what sheet is that? Yeah. Do me a favor a second. Read the function words there. So Gary's gonna read the function words. Everyone else look here. Ready? Go ahead. Let everyone else look over here. Go ahead.
Minalan tichtiv v'heicha tichtiv ihi minalan. I got here. Tichtiv minalan tichtiv uminayin damar kra. Wow.
It is identical. It is the exact same. When I say it's not just the exact same structure, it is exactly the same sugya. Just what's happening is instead of now what we're going to do is we're going to remind ourselves of what we saw in that sugya. Okay. I'll just remind ourselves quickly. We saw, let's even open up the Gemara. We'll do it on the inside very, very quickly. Okay, from Kaftet and Wud Aleph, we said, from where do we know that a father is obligated to redeem his son? And we got a pasuk, right? It says, Kol bechol banecha tivdei, you shall redeem your firstborn son. And it said, okay, and in a place where a person did not redeem his son, then the son has to redeem himself. And it brought a different pasuk. Okay? And then it went. And do you guys remember that big circle that we made? We talked about, I didn't save it, okay? Remember that we played on the words. We had two words that had the same, that we did tipade tifte. And we spent quite a lot of time trying to figure it out. And I want to remind ourselves for a second. Yeah, I'm gonna put this up. Because over there, you guys remember that I said to you guys, we spent quite a lot of time trying to figure it out. I said, you know what? We're not going to actually be able to figure it out very well, because we have to remember what happened there in order for us to continue. So the Gemara came and said, okay, and from where do we know that a woman is exempt? And it said, well, there's a word in the Torah like this. Okay? And in the Torah itself, it doesn't have vowels, right? And it could be read either as tipade, which is you should be redeemed. So I'm saying I have an obligation to be redeemed, meaning redeem myself. And it could also be read as tifde. You should redeem someone else. And the Gemara came, and the whole sugya of women's exemption was based, guys remember this?
Yes.
On the fact that both readings are possible, and therefore both readings is what the Torah means. And then when it said like this, well, why is the woman exempt? Because she has no obligation to redeem herself. And if she doesn't have an obligation to redeem herself, then she's not obligated to redeem, she's not obligated to redeem others, like her son, because she has no obligation to redeem herself. They said, well, how do we know she doesn't have an obligation to redeem herself? Well, because no one else has an obligation to redeem her. How do you know that no one else has an obligation to redeem her? Because it says, Kol b'chol banecha. Any of this ringing a bell?
Yes.
Okay? Kol b'chol banecha. So, since no one else has an obligation to redeem girls, girls do not have an obligation to redeem themselves, and if they have no obligation to redeem themselves, they have no obligation to redeem other people. Meaning only something that needs to be done to me do I have to do to myself when no one does it, right? My father has an obligation to redeem me. He doesn't redeem me, so who has to redeem me? Me. And only because I have an obligation to do it to myself can I do it to my son. That was the circle that we did. But we had tremendous difficulty, as everyone does, all the commentators, on saying, like, come on, like, it seems very arbitrary. Taking one word and saying, well, it could be read two ways, so it must mean both ways. Okay. Now you're going to see how this concept works, and it actually works. This sugya that you're going to now learn on your own does literally the exact, it is not just the same stages, it is the exact same sugya, just with two different psukim, instead of pidyon. So, what are you going to do now is you're going to learn the first 4 stages of the Gemara. Okay? From Menahel until this is man's, just a second. This is the structures that we've seen before. This is man's obligation. Sorry. And this is woman's exemption. Okay? So now, on your own, shouldn't take now. If you need any help with the words, you have it on your Pidyon Haben, because it's the same Gemara. It's mamash the same. So have your worksheet number 17 out. Where's the words that went with this? Here you go. There you go. Cheat sheet from page 17 are going to have words that will help you. So now, do the first 4 stages, okay? And we will reconvene. Let's see, what time is it? Oh, great. We have a ton of time. That's great. Good. We'll actually be able to hopefully do everything that I wanted us to do today. So, Ruta, you're trying to understand what the Gemara is doing. What is it saying? So again, you look at each. You're first looking at just the first section. The first section.
Yeah.
Okay. Put this together. Okay. So what is the Gemara about to do?
It's going to ask a question.
Okay. What's the question?
Okay. From where do we know that you have to teach in Torah?
That right. They have to teach. They're obligated to teach. The father is obligated to teach his son Torah.
Teach them.
Good. Okay.
To your sons, right? To your sons, v'heicha. And in a case where the law
is a shayla,
a gemira.
Okay.
What does it say?
The law a gemira where because he doesn't teach you.
Okay.
Wuha, your father doesn't teach you.
Then he has to. He's obligated to teach himself.
Yeah, he must. Oh, yeah, he's obligated to teach himself.
Steve, you with us?
To
some degree, there's a lot here that we've just and with time it becomes a lot clearer.
So how do we know that his father didn't teach him that he's obligated to teach himself?
Okay, so now read the entire next section, from the beginning of the section to the end of the section.
Okay,
where the law of the father didn't teach himself, didn't teach the son.
Right, by the way, do you recognize that pasuk?
He must, he's obligated if more not try to teach himself.
Because in the other one,
right?
As well?
No, you should recognize it from some. We haven't learned it. You should recognize it from somewhere else.
So the proof.
Period, I think, because the next part goes.
So what is it saying?
So
It is written
what's the
Limadatem, which is you, right?
There you go. Where do we know they didn't follow it? It says you shall teach your sons.
It's on you
There you
too.
go. Good. Okay. Next stage.
Another.
Should I?
Yeah, just do the stage, the function within the stage. It's like really simple. Afterwards, right it is.
I don't know how it proves it either.
Where are you guys?
The Raya.
The fourth stage.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're about to read a pasuk. You're about to read a pasuk. Okay, right? You're reading a pasuk.
What's one word from a
It's one word.
What is it?
Limadatem.
Are you sure that that's how you read it? Besides, why do you think that's the word? Why do you think that the pasuk ends there?
Because the next word is Ihi Minalan.
Huh?
The next word is Ihi.
Oh, fine. So we've learned when the pasuk is quoted and you want to see the actual pasuk, where do you go? Where do you go to on the page? No.
The margin.
What? Correct. Okay. You have either a circle or a letter that sends you to a footnote, right? It sends you to a footnote. Look at the pasuk. You find it?
This one has no circle.
This one has nothing.
They both
The
do.
first one does. The first Limadatem.
The other one does. Also.
Is it the left, the dollar? Is the bet?
Yours doesn't. Another proof why you should not be using why Schottenstein is.
No, but there's a dollar. There's a dollar about.
What? What's going on here?
Well, I'm assuming it's the same pasuk.
Miachev.
Well, no. You see, it is absolutely not the same pasuk.
Okay.
Wow. So you see, Rashi says Kira acharinahu. In my Gemara, it's a different circle. It's a different circle, and it sends to a different place. Okay. So you're right to be confused. Okay. So let's do this. Let's do this part together Okay. So I'm never going to bother writing it down because it's very simple. So, right, what is the first stage? The question. What's the question?
Where do we know that the father must teach us?
Right, and the answer is, and where do we know? Which pasuk? What is the pasuk saying? You shall teach your sons. Right? And then the Memra comes and says what?
So can you just show us where we found it? The whole pasuk?
Yep. You would find it, so you see that little cursive bet? That would be over here. ולימדתם here. ולימדתם אותם את בניכם לדבר בם בשבתך ביתך ובזך בדרך שלך וקומך. Okay?
Yeah.
Great.
I see.
Okay?
You've given us the other pasuk here.
Yeah. Although it's funny because in my Gemara, if you were to hear, look in my Gemara, you'll see that it brings. Where is it? Where is it? Here.
So
This is the first one. That's the second one. And it's two different. And it brings two different psukim.
Wow.
So this is learn rather than teach.
Very good. There you go. You just corrected it. Yes, absolutely. Okay, but let's do it slowly. So then the Memra. So we have a question. We have our answer. For we know fellows obligated because it says in the Shema, teach your sons. Excellent. Then it says, okay. What is the Memra saying? Vehecha delo.
And in a case where
what?
there is no the law, there is no.
The father didn't.
He didn't. The father did not teach his son. Then what?
He is obligated
to do what?
To teach himself.
To teach himself. Now, it needs to prove it. De'amalkra. Okay, and then it brings dichtiv. Sorry, dichtiv. It says ulmadetem. Now, look at the flip side of the page I gave you. And you see, the first pasuk is from Shema. Okay, you shall teach your sons to speak, to write, to learn, to say the words of the Torah. Fantastic. The second source is Vayikra Moshe el Kol Yisrael v'yomer alehem Shema Yisrael et hachukim et hamishpatim. So hear, O Israel, all the laws Asher ani dover bazhem, which I speak to you today, ulmadetem otam ushmartem na'asotam. Which means what in the English? And learn them and observe them to do them. So, how does this prove? Ulmadetem otam. So over here, what is over here? It means ulmadetem otam. You shall learn them and keep them. So it means you shall learn them. So if I'm saying that you should learn them, then what does that mean? If I'm saying you have to learn them,
So it's an obligation for you.
For you to do what?
Teach yourself.
To teach yourself, to learn. Okay. So even though this is the exact same verb, right? So actually, this one means to teach. Teach your sons. This one means learn. Just because the spelling is slightly different. By the way, you're familiar with this from somewhere else. Okay? And the bracha we say right before Kriyat Shema. Lilmod ulamed lishmor v'lasot. We said lilmod ulamed, to learn and to teach. Right? We said every single day. ללמוד וללמד, לשמור ולעשות כן לכל מצוות תורתך באהבה, whatever. תורתך ודבק במצוותיך וחלה בנו לעבר לירה. ללמוד וללמד. To learn and to teach. And we'll see in a moment why it sounds very confusing, but it's not, because we'll see in a moment. Okay, so we have one pasuk teaching us you need to teach your son, and a different pasuk you need to teach yourself.
So can I ask a question? So we know, there's one word in the whole Gemara, Ulamadatem. That's it. We know only if we had the same Gemara, the Talmud that you had, that we'd have a quote for Rashi that tells us.
No, so
how would you know? If
I wouldn't know.
From one word in the whole Torah that
you would know because you have Rashi.
But that's 1,000 years later.
So you're saying how would we know
How would they know?
How would we know pre-10th century?
Yeah.
Because post-10th century, there's Rashi. Because if you look at Rashi, look at Rashi for a second.
How does Rashi know? I'm just saying. I'm just saying like this.
No, I'm serious. No, I'm serious. It's actually a good answer. Because it's Rashi. Because it doesn't make sense otherwise. And Rashi knows, because Rashi knows the whole Torah, he knows that there are two psukim.
That's the only time Ulamadatem is used in the whole Torah?
What?
Could be another verse. I don't know. there's...
So two options. Either Rashi learned it from his rabbi, who 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 learned it from the person who actually said it in the Bet Midrash. Because actually the distance between Rashi and the person who said it in the Gemara was much, much, much shorter time frame distance than from us to Rashi. Rashi died in the year 1004. Okay, so he died 1,012 years ago. The Gemara was sealed, anyone remember? Approximately the year 400.
Okay.
Rashi died, so 600 years after this, or between 600 to 750 years after these words were said, Rashi is writing it. And the oral law was, Rashi could draw his lineage directly from one of the Tanaim, Rabbi Yochanan HaSandlar. Okay, 600 years, which is a lot less than what we're talking about between us and Rashi. And remember, between Rashi and the first time Rashi was printed was about 600 years. Okay, so the same amount of time. So either he learned it from his rabbi who learned it from this guy, or it was just obvious to him, because how would this pasuk, if it's the same pasuk, how would this prove, you shall teach your sons, how would this prove that a person needs to learn it himself? That's actually a trick question, because one could learn from it. I'll show you guys in a minute.
Because if we did what we did last time, then there may be some funky reading.
Excellent, you're right. The problem was, we didn't like that. It didn't sit well with us, it didn't make sense. And by the way, it didn't only not make sense to us, it didn't make sense to practically anyone. The Rishonim and the Achonim go bananas trying to figure out that sugya, especially because this sugya actually makes sense. The way the limit is done here actually makes sense, so everyone goes back, and some of the Achonim rewrite the previous sugya, so we'll have the same actual logical sequence that this one does. But soon you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay? So you understand what I'm talking about.
Well, but I don't understand how that's a proof anyway.
What? How this is a proof?
Yeah.
Because you shall learn them and do them, meaning the laws of the Torah.
Well, the question is,
you shall learn them.
And how do we? What is the proof for?
So therefore, I know that I need to do it myself.
To learn yourself if your father hasn't taught you. It's the first part. This is just the general obligation you have to teach
what,
yourself.
Here? This?
Sorry, this is general. The second one is a general obligation you have to learn. Not specific.
Okay.
It's something that kicks in if your father doesn't take it.
Okay, we have to go off on a tangent right now because of that question. But it's actually a really important one because and next week we're going to get back to doing the Gemara and showing how cool it is that this Gemara actually works where that one almost completely failed. But we're going to go off on a tangent now, but it's a really, really, really important one. It has to do with your question, okay? Because you said, this doesn't. Well, what was the question again?
I didn't understand how that was a proof.
That what? Do you have to learn it yourself?
Right.
Okay.
Can I ask another question?
Please.
Also on that word. So, I mean, it works very nicely what you just said, but it could be teach in both places or
no,
learn in
can't
both.
be teach.
Why?
Can't be teach.
It's the same.
But the term
word.
is something that you do to yourself.
But it could be read as the first one, teach.
This is something you're doing to someone else. This is something you're doing to yourself.
You could teach them, and the second one you could teach as well, and do them.
Over here?
And ushmartem lasotam, and do
no,
them.
but the tem ushmartem is you. You shall. So you
could teach them, and you got to do it.
No, you say
teach it and do it yourself.
You say maybe I need to both teach it and do it.
Correct.
Interesting. It doesn't really fit with the context of the pasuk. It's saying
you should walk like you talk.
What? Meaning because this one is clearly trying to say, look, okay, we have to be okay. We will not be able to continue without the tangent because you'll see why. And what we're going to talk about now, what we're going to mention now is dramatic. Okay. Famous question. Okay. Is there a mitzvah from the Torah to learn Torah? If you had to give an instinctive answer, what would you say?
Yes.
Obviously. Why? Well, because everyone talks about how important it is to learn Torah. So it must be an obligation to the Torah to learn Torah. Not simple at all. Okay? There's only 2 places in the Torah, meaning there are 3 verses that are usually quoted to prove to talk about the obligation of learning Torah. One is V'hagita bo yomam v'layla. You shall contemplate them day and night. Problem is, it's not taken from the Torah. It's taken from Sefer Yehoshua. Doesn't mean it's not important. It just means it's not an obligation from the Torah. Okay? It says you shall contemplate them day and night. Okay? So that one cannot be used as a source from the Torah to study Torah. The other 2 are these 2 verses. The problem over here is, can you derive from these psukim the obligation that a Jew needs to learn Torah for the sake of learning Torah? Let's look at them. First one, what is the obligation? To teach your sons Torah. Now, by the way, this whole introduction that we're going to do now is very crucial to understanding the rest of the sugya, but it's also a really important sugya concept in its own. Okay? But we cannot move forward next week without knowing this. So, does it say here you have a mitzvah to learn Torah?
Yes, because in order to teach it, you have to know.
Excellent.
Well, okay.
Okay. Wait. So I'm going to put this down. This doesn't seem to be working. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to look at pasuk 1, and then we're going to look at pasuk 2. Okay.
That doesn't necessarily follow.
What?
That doesn't necessarily follow that it's an obligation.
Is that on me?
You're right.
To learn.
Over here? It's catching this?
Yeah.
It could be that there's a series of a series of obligations to teach.
Right.
The byproduct
So it
is
doesn't-
people learn, but not necessarily.
Okay, so now, one could argue, okay, what it says here, I have an obligation to teach my son Torah. But how can I possibly teach my son Torah if I don't learn it myself? I can't teach him something that I don't know, that I myself didn't learn. Either myself or someone taught me. I cannot, but even if someone's teaching me, I'm learning it, right? So, there's a big discussion in the Rishon when it says that you have an obligation, okay, of v'limadetem, to teach your sons, v'limadetem, okay? So everyone agrees that in order to teach my son Torah, I need to learn Torah. The question is the learning of the Torah, is it just how much is of a prerequisite? I'll give an example. There's a concept called hechsher mitzvah. Okay, something that allows you to do a mitzvah. For instance, is it a mitzvah to build a sukkah?
No.
No. Is it a mitzvah to buy tefillin?
No.
Is it a mitzvah to make tefillin? No. The only way in which I could be mekayim the mitzvah of sitting in a sukkah is if I build a sukkah. So what is the definition of building a sukkah? It's called a hechsher mitzvah, something that allows you to do a mitzvah. So it's like tangential to the mitzvah. So it has value, but am I actually doing a mitzvah when I'm building a sukkah? No. I'm doing something that will allow me to do a mitzvah. So that in itself is important, but it itself is not a mitzvah. Okay?
That's no bracha.
What? And there's no bracha, for instance. And there could be a lot of other ramifications. The fact that action is not a mitzvah. Now,
however, sitting in it is, but
of course.
So, however, not actually building it.
No, it is a hechsher mitzvah, something which enables you. It's what we call a hechsher mitzvah.
Prerequisite.
That is a prerequisite. It is a mitzvah enabler. I cannot be mekayim the mitzvah of putting on my tefillin if I don't buy tefillin. But no one in the Torah does it say, you shall buy tefillin. It says you shall tie them on your hands, on your arms. Well, how can I tie them on my hands if I don't make them first? Fine, but that's not the mitzvah. That's a mitzvah enabler. So, okay, look at this. So, is there a mitzvah to learn Torah? Well, two opinions. It says here that you need to teach your sons Torah. Everyone agrees, I can't teach my son Torah without learning Torah. The question is learning Torah a hechsher mitzvah? Meaning learning Torah is only a mitzvah enabler. Because I don't actually have the mitzvah to learn Torah. It doesn't say I have a mitzvah to learn Torah. I have a mitzvah to teach my son Torah. I just have to give my son tefillin. Fine, so I have to buy him tefillin. Meaning, in order for him to put on tefillin, I have to buy him tefillin to be able to put on tefillin. But what is the definition of Talmud Torah? It's a hechsher mitzvah of teaching my son. Which is interesting. Okay? So, option one, it's a hechsher mitzvah. And by the way, you do, just like with Brit Milah, you have an obligation to do a Brit Milah to your son. I'm guessing that chances are no one here actually did their son's Brit Milah. You can appoint a shaliach, right? So, part of also teaching your son Torah could also be appointing a shaliach, aka spending way too much money on school tuition. Right? Okay. Erase that afterwards. Okay. So one option is it's that there's no mitzvah to actually learn, but it's a hechsher mitzvah. It enables me to do a mitzvah. Other option is to say no. It's an actual mitzvah to learn because it's a mitzvah to learn Torah in order to teach my son Torah. Because there is no way to teach my son Torah without learning Torah. Is it possible to be mekayim the mitzvah of tefillin without buying tefillin? Can I mekayim the mitzvah of tefillin without buying tefillin?
Yeah.
Yeah. How?
You could put on somebody else's.
I could borrow someone else's. Can I mekayim the mitzvah of sukkah without building a sukkah?
Yes.
Lulav and etrog is more complicated because over there it has to be yours. It's part of the prerequisite, it becomes yours. So on the first day at least it has to be yours. But technically speaking, I can say, can I have your thing? It says, yes, it is now yours. Whatever, theoretically, okay? I'm saying, can I mekayim the mitzvah of sitting in a sukkah without building a sukkah? Yes. So although building a sukkah does enable a mitzvah, it is not inherently dependent on it. Okay? Meaning sitting in a sukkah does not really require building a sukkah. I could be mekayim the mitzvah without building one. But when I do build one, it is enabling a mitzvah. Over here, I cannot teach my son Torah if I don't know Torah, if I didn't learn Torah. And therefore,
yes, like you said,
you're a shaliach.
Yeah.
And that's shaliach. Fine, but I'm saying, fine, but he's doing it. I'm saying, but even when I'm doing it through a shaliach, technically, officially, he's called me. That person is in my stead. Okay, hopefully, we'll get later, a little bit later in the year, to the concept of shlichut.
But,
Okay,
in that case, it's not a necessary.
No, he's me. We're considered to be one. He learned Torah, so that's like I learned Torah.
He's your agent.
He is my agent. Like he is me. The Gemara comes and says he is considered to be my hand. Not like he is an extension of my body, legally speaking. Okay, so let's leave on this side for a second. But so according to some Rishonim, because the only way to become this mitzvah is to learn, therefore this mitzvah includes within it the obligation to learn. Okay? Does it strike you as odd? It does strike you as a little odd. Okay? But we'll see that when we learn the sugya later on, it's not odd at all. Because this whole sugya keeps on playing on the link between father and son. The whole time. It's the whole sugya. From the very first time when they asked, what is the meaning of the phrase, mitzvot haben hala'av? And we said, why is it talking in such an ambiguous way? Just say the phrase. Why are you leading us on and saying a phrase which I'm not sure is it the father's obligation to the son or the son's obligation to the father? The whole sugya from the very beginning is mishmashing the relation between father and son, blurring the line, saying it only looks like it's two separate entities. It's not. And the only someone who has an obligation to be redeemed has an obligation to redeem himself. And only someone who has an obligation to redeem himself has an obligation to redeem his son. So all this one big circle, okay? Which when we see our sugya later on, we'll see becomes much cooler than much cooler. So there are two opinions. One that says that it is a mitzvah because it's the only way to become the mitzvah. Therefore, this mitzvah of teaching your son. But it means that the only reason means that so according to this approach, there's no actual, this pasuk does not include an obligation to learn Torah at all. It's just, it enables you to teach someone else. But even according to this opinion, it says yes. But the only reason why you're learning Torah is why? To teach your son. It's like, wow, right? The only reason why a person needs to learn Torah is so he can teach his son. Very, very powerful idea that the essence of learning Torah is passing on the tradition.
So is your original question whether there's a source for learning Torah for its own sake?
So, based on this source, no. Either option. Okay? Now we look at source number 2. Oh,
right.
Okay. Source number 2, one could argue that...
I'm trying to, I don't want to bog you down, but I can just ask you a question. The ramifications of that is that if the whole purpose of learning Torah is to teach your son, and they would similarly have the purpose of them learning is to teach their son, then the purpose of learning then is never for the individual, but for maybe some other purpose of the continuance of knowledge. And
absolutely.
Well, so if you don't have a son, then we have no obligation to learn, unless there's some other purpose.
So there is another purpose. You shall learn these laws and keep them. So, but over here, it's pretty obvious that the purpose of the learning is not learning Torah for the sake of learning Torah, for the pure knowledge of it, rather because I need to know what to do. So, I need to learn Hilchot Shabbat because I need to know what to do and not do in Shabbat. So that is a very practical. It's very meaning it's like almost the learning is a hechsher mitzvah for doing. I need to know. I need to keep the mitzvah, and I can't keep the mitzvah if I don't learn what is allowed and not allowed. I can't keep kosher if I don't learn what's kosher, what's treif. Okay, but that is not at all when we talk about the concept that has become extremely central, at least over the last 500 years, 400 years, of learning Torah for the sake of learning Torah as a primary mitzvah. Neither one of these seems to include that. This one maybe does a little bit, but only because it's supposed to be passed on to your son. Okay, as part of, because that's how Judaism stays alive. Meaning that is what Judaism is. That's why Yetziat Mitzrayim is focused on V'yigat L'bincha, right? That it is the transference of a tradition, of a belief, of a certain style of life, and set of etc., etc. That is what Torah Mitzvot is. And how do you do that? By learning Torah from your father. That doesn't necessarily have to be with the book. Could be. I'm saying receiving the tradition and passing on the tradition. Okay, that's why this is in the Shema. Okay, we say it every day. Okay, twice, 3 times a day. Okay, so there's a very So we're done for today, but this is what I want us to remember for next week. Because next week we've now understood that there is one mitzvah that from when we know a father needs to teach his son Torah from this pasuk. And we know that if a father did not teach his son has to teach himself from this pasuk. Also makes a lot of sense, right? Your father needs to teach you based on the source that talks about transferring the tradition. And okay, your father didn't teach you, you didn't have a father, whatever the situation is, you have to learn yourself. Well, you got to at least learn it so you know what you're supposed to do at least. And then of course when you become a father, you got to do that. Okay? So now we have a source for teaching your son Torah and teaching yourself Torah. Okay? And now just to give you a kind of precursor for next week, so now when the Gemara is going to come and say, so where do we know that a woman is exempt? What's it going to say? Well, look at this. It's going to say, just like it did last week, tipadet tivdeh, but it was like based on nothing. Over here it's going to do it. It's going to say, look. It's going to do it from this. Velimadetem, ulmadetem. Okay, velimadetem, whatever, whatever. So it's saying, it's going to say, teach, learn. Only someone who has an obligation to learn himself has an obligation to teach others. Now, does that make sense? Absolutely. How can I teach others if I didn't learn it myself? So only someone has an obligation to teach himself has an obligation to teach others. How do you know women don't have an obligation to teach themselves? Because only someone who other people have an obligation to teach them has an obligation, when the person doesn't do it, to teach himself. Well, how do you know that other people don't need to teach her? Yeah, that actually works. Meaning, since the pasuk says you only have to teach your sons, then when you don't do that, then meaning you don't have to teach your daughters. And if you don't have to teach your daughters, then if you don't teach your daughters, they don't have to teach themselves. And if they don't have to teach themselves, then they don't have to teach anyone else. Bam. It works. This didn't. Because I can do, as someone here asked, I can be podeh my son, even if I have not gone through a pidyon. I am a third child. Pidyon was not done to me. If my oldest son was not born through a C-section, I would have given him a pidyon. Right? That's the missing link that we had back then. But over here, I can't. I can't teach it if I didn't learn it. I can't learn it if no one taught it to me.
That doesn't make sense, though. I mean, I understand women are not obligated to.
No, it says you don't have an obligation to teach your daughter. If you don't have an obligation to teach your daughter, therefore she doesn't have an obligation to do your job for you when you didn't do it and teach herself. If she has an obligation to teach herself, how can you have an obligation to teach anyone else?
But what you're basically saying is that there isn't an obligation for a woman to learn.
No, that's not where it starts from. It starts in the pasuk. You shall teach your sons.
Yeah.
Okay? And therefore, meaning, and not, you do not have an obligation. Again, we're not talking at all about whether you're allowed to or not. That's not the discussion. It talks about an obligation.
Okay.
Meaning you're being negligent if you don't do this. So, right? So you need to teach your sons. The pasuk says that explicitly. Okay. Why? We can talk about that at a different time, but it says it. Okay, so if you have an obligation to teach only your sons, okay, meaning you do not have an obligation to teach your daughters. If you don't have an obligation to teach your daughters, then they do not have an obligation to pick up your slack and teach themselves when you don't fulfill your obligation, right? Because that's the first two stages of the Gemara, where a father needs to teach his son, and when the father doesn't teach his son, then the son has to teach himself. Oh. So teach your sons, not your daughters. Okay, you don't have an obligation to teach your daughters. If you don't have an obligation to teach your daughters, then they don't have an obligation to teach themselves when you don't do your job. Okay, and if they don't have an obligation to teach themselves, how could they have that? How can they be obligated to teach someone else something that no one did to them? No one has an obligation to do to them.
Well, if they have an obligation.
No, but they have no obligation. How can you be obligated to do something that I have? No, meaning, how can I be expected to do something when to teach, to give over the tradition, if no one has an obligation to give it to me? Based on what? But how can I have the obligation to do it myself? And then when I'm 13, I'm supposed to do it to myself. At 13, I'm supposed to. We're all going to be Rabbi Akiva. We'll start when we're 40. I can't have an obligation to start teaching myself if no one has an obligation to teach me.